Aloha everyone, my name is Alessandro and this is the Temple of Surf, the podcast. We'll give you full access to the best surfers, skaters, shapers, surfboard collectors, shop owners in the world. Discover with me their stories, the greatest successes, amazing behind the scenes, and much more. Hello everyone and welcome to the 12th episode of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. I hope you enjoyed our 2 episodes every Monday and Thursday. Today with us, parts of our series dedicated to surfboard collectors from all over the world, Ken Lewis. Let's discover more about his amazing collection of Skip Frye surfboards and much more. Hi Ken and welcome to the show. Where are you today?
San Diego, California, where it's just starting to get sunny and a little warmer, so that's nice.
How is it going in this time of coronavirus?
It's weird, man. I'll tell you. First, we were not allowed to surf for about a month and a half. So that's like the one thing that we kind of had. Like, all right, if I can't work, I could go surfing. And then when that wasn't available, it just was like staying at home for 2 months. It was really rough. You know, like people were starting to get a little eggy, and people are online on Instagram complaining about everything. It's kind of been a weird 2 months.
Yeah, but I hope everything is gonna go back to normality. I mean, the little small business they need customers.
Right.
You know, it's like
it's been tough. I think you said you had talked to Bert Huffman. You know, like the surf shops too. Like they were closed, so these guys' livelihood, who, you know, surf shops make barely any money anyway. So to be closed for that long of a time is so hard on everyone. You know.
Yeah, and to keep the workers and the families of the workers employed.
All of them.
I hope everything is going to go better in San Diego like everywhere else in the world. We cross fingers.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about surfboards. Your story, I guess, is a very fascinating story. The first question that I have for you is, what is the most important thing, in your opinion, in surfing?
For me, it's always been the surfboard itself, which is, to me, encompasses surfboard builders. You know, so we can't do our passion without the shapers, the sanders, the hot coaters, the fin guy. You know, to me, it's all about surfboard craftsmanship, and everything kind of falls under that pyramid after that. A lot of people think it's the surfboard industry with clothing because there's a lot of money in it, but that's not surfing to me. That's the surf industry, and that's something totally different. To me, it's the surfboard. And I think my perspective is I had to get away from surfing for a time. I got into skateboards and had a skate shop, and I didn't surf for a bunch of years. And to come back into surfing and realizing how much I loved riding waves, and I loved surfboards, and I loved like the people who made them. And it had nothing to do with the clothing companies or the jobs I had in the industry. It was about riding waves. And so for me, that's it. It's all about the surfboard. And for me, I hold in a high regard the people who build them.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. So you had a skateboard shop, right? It was also pretty famous.
Yeah, we did pretty good there for a minute. Like I worked in surf shops from about 87 till about 95. And then in 95, I started working in my friend's skate shop after I'd come back from a trip to Fiji. And I really liked it. I'm like, you know what? Like the vibe is different. The skateboard guys were just a whole different type of person than the surf guys. And I really liked skateboarding. It was really like all inclusive. It was very ethnic diverse. It didn't matter if you're rich or poor, white or black. Everyone skated and they were all cool with each other. Where I felt like surfing was a little different. Like, you know, I grew up here in San Diego, and some groups were elite and some weren't. And some were, you know, there's a lot of vibes, and there was a weird time at that moment. So for me, I really enjoyed skateboarding, and I kind of transitioned out of surf and just had my skate shop for about 7 years. And I loved it. It was just a lot of fun. It was kind of getting back to just the stuff that it was just happiness. You know, we built a skate park here in town, and we had some cool stuff happening. And it was a nice break from surfing for me.
You were saying that surfing at that time was like divided by groups, let's say. Is still like that in San Diego today?
Not as much. No, like back then, especially like the 80s and then into the 90s, there was still a lot of localism, a lot of like, you know, what part of town you were from. You would surf there, but if you would go out of it, you would either have to know people. And I was lucky. I worked in the surf shop with Bird. And so I knew people from all groups, like from all parts of San Diego. So I can kind of dip in and out. But there was still vibes, and there was still like, some people, again, the localism at the time was like people were better than or less than. And it wasn't like all inclusive. Now you can ride any board you want. You can kind of surf any beach you want. no one's going to fight you. No one's going to tell you to leave. There's still an underlying localism at some spots, but at that time it was just, you had to really put on your game face and kind of be the asshole and catch your waves and vibe people out if they, it just was a whole different vibe. And I grew to really dislike that a lot. And so now it's kind of nice where you can paddle out pretty much anywhere. And if you show respect, you get respect. There's still going to be a couple people that are chippy, but it's a lot different now than it used to be.
No, I like that. I like this way, maybe it's more open and less troubles. And as well, you said it's right. You need to respect, right? That doesn't mean that, like people that are from that area, they have like the best way. It's just a matter of etiquette, surf etiquette, just don't drop in.
I think nowadays we're a lot better about sharing what the etiquette is. Back then, it used to be, it would accelerate to yelling and telling people to leave or getting yelled at like that, where now it's more like if you see someone struggling and they get in your way, you can paddle up to them and be like, hey, man, like maybe this isn't the spot for you. Here's a different way to do it. I think people are a little more calm that way of explaining, like maybe you shouldn't be here because of safety reasons, not you're not from here, leave. I think now it's a little more PC and, you can't really get away with aggressive stuff that people can't, which is good because I think that was an ugly part of surfing for a long time.
What was the first surfboard that you ever had or you ever bought, actually?
So my first surfboard that I bought, like I had a couple boards that my friends let me try, and my parents went in on a first surfboard for me at Select Surf Shop, a little 6'4" Hank Warner in like 1983. And it was too small for me the whole bit. But the first one I bought was used. I was in 9th grade, and my first board that they had got me was getting beat up. And so this guy, he was in a band. I thought he was pretty cool. And he had a used board, and it was from the Surf Club Surf Shop in Pacific Beach. And it was shaped by Mike Baumet. And it was 6'2", and it had rainbow rails and a D-Lam deck. And I bought it for $150 because I thought the guy was cool. Mm-hmm. And I had that board for a year and a half, and I surfed it until it was so soft on the deck and leaking water, and I had tape on it. And I came biking around the corner one time. You carry your surfboard under your arm. And I came around the corner, and there was a sidewalk curb cut and a pole. And I came up the thing, and it got caught on the pole, and I snapped the nose off. Oh, my God. And so, a week later, after I tried surfing with the broken nose, we just burned it in the fire pit.
What brand was that again?
There was a surf shop here called the Surf Club. And there was a guy named Mike Baumet, and I think he shaped up in like Orange County. But it was a Mike Baumet Surf Club surf shop board.
Okay, because I interviewed as a first episode of this series Rob Machado that told me, my first surfboard was I don't know, 6 or something with a rainbow airbrush, and it was done by Surfing SNI, Surfing New Image.
Yeah.
He said, if there is anybody out there that still has that surfboard, please contact me, So I was like, oh my God, there's a rainbow airbrush. But I guess he was not the only one doing rainbow.
Not the only one. Yeah, back then in the 80s especially, there was just bright boards, bright wetsuits. It was, again, a lot different. And, the first board my parents bought me to learn on, the guy sold them a 6'4", where, now you sell somebody a 7'6", like an egg or something, or a wave storm they get. Yeah. So it was definitely the wrong board for me to learn on, but I'm kind of glad I had it,
Yeah, it was challenging. So maybe you improved quite rapidly. Because
so hard. It took me the whole summer to stand up. It sucked. It was a lot. I was in 7th grade and just every day trying to stand up, and I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And when it finally clicked, it was that was it.
Cool. Tell us about your surfboard collection. You have a fantastic collection of Skip Frye. We see in your Instagram page, and then you have something else. What's your how does your collection look like?
So growing up here, and again, I think I mentioned earlier, I worked for Bird Huffman. Before he ever had the shed, he had a shop called Wind and Sea Beach and Surf, and it was a little surf shop in Pacific Beach. And he had pretty much that collection you see now on his roof.
Yeah,
that was all stashed upstairs in this loft area. And so as a kid growing up, with my little 6'2" bump squash 80s board, to go up there and look at all these surfboards from every era and just trip out on them. What are these twin fins, or what are these fishes? I didn't know what they were. So at the time, it was every board was an education. And Bird, these are all his boards, and he would tell us about them. And next door, Skip Frye shaped surfboards. He had a little shaping room next to Bird's shop. And so as a kid, like kind of breaking out of that normal, like, okay, Tom Kern, Mark Occhilupo, ripping stuff, I wanted to like learn about these other boards. And so we tried an egg or we tried twin fin, and just to see all those boards. And it kind of opened my eyes of like, you need a lot of boards to kind of surf consistently around here anyway. Like the surf's pretty bad most of the year. So you got to ride some longer boards. And then when it's good, you want to ride something like Gunny or whatever. So it sort of opened my eyes early that you want to have a lot of different surfboards for the conditions. So over the years, just kind of gathering boards of what I like, what I've tried, what I know works for me, or the feeling you get when you surf a certain board on a certain day, it just sort of like you keep adding to the stash. And for me, it just kind of kept going. I think right now I'm like up to about 35 boards or so. And I surf most of them. I don't really collect anything just to have. There might be one or two that are outdated, like old guns, like a caster gun or something that I won't ride. But most of the boards are all riders. So it's kind of like a working quiver,
But if you had to select one among the one that you have, which one would you pick?
Oh, that's tough, man. One board for like, if I was on a desert island kind of thing and I had one board I could surf.
Yes, but you should in a desert island with your surfboard collection. So if you had to pick one from your surfboard collection, which one you would pick?
So the one I like actually right now the most, Skip made me a 9-foot, he calls them nozzles, a 9-foot nozzle, but it's basically like a big fish.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, fishes maybe got to 6 feet tall and that was it. And Skip's been like making them longer and longer. And he made me this one for this Peru trip I went on a couple years ago. And he goes, hey, try this board. It's an 8.6. Just try it. It's kind of this new thing I'm trying. And it's amazing. It turns, it goes fast. It's everything I want in a surfboard. So right now I have a 9-foot fish that I can pretty much surf from 2 foot to 8 feet. And it works in everything. And that's one that is pretty much an all-around board. I could surf anytime, anywhere.
I love
But that's not what I would take to Fiji or anything, but that's what I would surf mostly around here.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Definitely Skip Frye is a legend, and he makes amazing surfboards. So I guess like a big part of his success is also due to a very qualitative product, if you want to say, really?
Yeah, 100%. His boards, if you look at his era from 65 or so up to current, he's seen everything. Like every type of board that's ever been in the modern age just come through his eyes, and he's felt them and he's seen them and he's made versions of it. So he's seen everything. And the boards he makes, he shapes for the waves he rides around here. And, they've changed as he's gotten older. Some boards have more roll in them now, or things are just always changing with him. But he can shape anything that you need for around here, which has translated around the world. You can ride those boards in amazing waves everywhere.
You told me before that sometimes you sold one of or some of your surfboards to some other people. Have you ever regretted to have sold a particular surfboard?
I've got so many regrets. When you're younger, and Skip at the time, he was younger as well. So it's like you just kind of figure they're always around, right? I can get them, and at the time they were cheap. So you'd get a board sometimes, and you'd ride it a few times, and you'd sell it. And it wasn't a big deal because you just knew you could get more. And now as time's gone by, you realize how special some of those boards were. And, I sold some because I was broke. I needed to pay rent. A bad time. I got divorced about 10 years ago and I had to sell a bunch to pay for lawyers. Just stuff like you wish you didn't sell them, but at certain points of your life, like you have no choice. And, at one point when I had my skate shop, I had one surfboard, and it was like this one last 9.2 Skip Frye that I got when my dad passed away. And so that's the one that I've always kept because he wrote like my dad's name on the stringer and stuff. So I kept that no matter what, even when I wasn't surfing. And I didn't surf for about 4 years at one point. So I just had one board sitting on the side of my house. And then when I fell back in love with surfing again, after the skate shop and all this stuff, I wanted to go surfing again. And I couldn't do it with that one old board. So I just kind of kept building it back up. So, it's like life, right? Ebbs and flows. Like some years are great, some years are terrible. Yeah. And you never know what's coming. So sometimes you got to let them go.
Of course. But the good news is that Skip is young still, even if even if he's old, I think he still has a young soul and he's still shaping a lot. So, it's
You
good.
nailed it. It's so fun talking to him because he's 78, which most 78-year-old people, they look 78 and they act 78. And when you sit with Skip and you talk to him for a few minutes, if you talk about something and he's sparked on it, you see his eyes light up. And it's like he's an instant teenager again. And he'll tell you the story about like riding a wave and how the board felt, and he'll get animated. And I can't even explain how special he is, because it's just such a throwback to these type of people they're just such a pure surfing personality. And it's everything with him, shaping and surfing. Like those are the two things that just, you could just see it. Just, that's his life's passion.
Let's talk about skateboarding for a second. How skateboarding evolved in your area, in your city, in San Diego?
I mean, San Diego, it's one of the major points of skateboarding. Mostly because like this is in the 70s and 80s, we had the skateboard magazine here, Transworld. So you had the main magazine in San Diego. So a lot of people were coming to San Diego to get photos in the magazine with Grant Britton and everybody. And it just kind of was a skateboarding hub from that. And then we had skate parks like Del Mar and Oasis and a bunch of other places in the 70s and 80s. But it's always been a huge part of culture. Like even back when you're talking about Skip, he was in the skateboard world championships in 1965. So like all of our surfers here were always skateboarding. And, as a kid growing up in a shop, it's what you see, right? You see your local hot surfer, what he's riding, or the hot skateboard guy or whatever it is. And you kind of you gravitate towards that. And so for Southern California, especially, it was just a huge part of the culture growing up. It was, kind of as a kid in school, like the coolest dudes surfed and skated, and all the girls like them. So you're like, well, I kind of want to know about that. Yeah. And then, you grow up at the beach too. That's part of it as well. Like for me, my dad was a spear fisherman. He was an older Portuguese guy, and we were always at the beach and he was catching our dinners. And so it was always riding waves while he was diving. So from boogie boarding or riding mats, like we rode mats in the 70s, it just sort of evolved back into like, you're always at the beach, you're always riding waves in some form. And then when you realize surfing's pretty cool, you want to be part of that. And same with skateboarding. Skateboarding, I still have a garage full of skateboards. It's like, it's those fun things that it's a connection to the things that make you happy.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that you can store skateboard easier than surfboards, right?
That's true. Yeah. And, it's one of those things like a red curb, right? Like let's say like to slap you a red curb. It's always 6 foot and offshore, right? That curb is always there and it's always the same way. And, it's how you perform that day on the curb. Where surfing, you got to wait for like the certain day to come to you.
Exactly.
Where, that red curb is always down at the Vaughn's parking lot. You can skate at any time,
Cool.
So that's kind of fun.
If you had to meet like a young surfboard collector, which advice would you give to him?
I think some people, it's weird. I get approached a lot about people wanting to collect, and I'm not, maybe I have a different perspective. And it's also how Skip kind of looked at it in Bird as well, that they're all riders, right? Like you want these boards to ride. And the reason you buy a board is to capture the feeling that board will give you on a wave. So if you're buying an old 1965, whatever, you want that feeling. You're going to surf that board that way. Some people buy them just because, that looks clean. I want to hang on to it because it might be worth something. They flip it. And I'm not a flipper. I don't like that. I think people should buy boards that they want because they're going to surf it or it means something to them. So for me, I guess if you're going to get into collecting or you want to pursue something like that, collect the things that, or buy the things that you want to ride first and foremost. And then the things that mean something to you. Like maybe you saw the Dogtown movie and you wanted a Jeff Ho Zephyr board because that made you love that era. I don't know. Yeah. But collect the things that are you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Don't just collect because you think it's gonna be worth $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. Buy something you want to have in your stash that you want to ride.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe that if you approach the surfboard collection as a flipping game, you lose the history of the surfboard because you're flipping, and basically the person that sold it to you that maybe had something like in pencil on the stringer that means something to him. It gives you the information, but you don't transmit this information to the new buyer. And then the story of the surfboard get lost. And then suddenly you maybe have in your hands like an amazing surfboard that had an amazing story, but for one reason or another, you don't know anything. And then you treat it like, okay, it's just one of hundreds, thousands of surfboard that have. So that actually is the scope a little bit of this podcast, is to try to find cross-reference among all the surf collector and the surfboards. So like we can say that surfboard and that surfboard are from the same period, maybe from the same owner, that drawing or that sticker on the surfboard meant this and that, I think connecting, and that's actually, it's a very powerful if you want to recreate a kind of a story of surfboard and surf shapes.
I had a guy hit me up. This is funny because you nailed it. He sent me a picture of a fry that he found in Australia. And he goes, hey, I just found this board. It's been broken but repaired, but it's a Skip Frye. What do you know about it? And the minute I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh. It was one of the very first Fish Simmons that Skip ever shaped in 92. And it had these red fins on it and this little logo. And in that old video I was telling you about that I had made, Skip is surfing it as a brand new surfboard. And he's surfing it at wind and sea. And Skip is surfing so good. And it was that board. And the guy, I'm like, hey, is there a name on it? He goes, yeah, it's John. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he shaped that board for a guy in France. And when he went to France in 94 for that Legends contest, he left his quiver with this guy, John. And that guy, John, ended up moving to Australia. But that's, again, how the board got around. So for that guy, for him, all he saw was this old beat up board. But in reality, it was one of Skip's personal boards. That was one of the very first Fish Simmons ever shaped. So it's so sacred. And the guy had no clue. But that's what I talked about. Like, things go around for 30 years and you never know what might pop up.
Yeah. We're going to finish our interview with a short Q&A session. So please ask the first thing that comes up to your mind, okay? The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
Yeah, so the best surfboard I ever had or ever ridden was a 6-foot Rich Pavel Fish. And it was a very unconventional fish. It was really boxy railed, flat, had an edge nose to tail, and slant back wooden keel plies on it. And when I looked at it, like he gave it to me, and I had to pay for the glass job, but he gave it to me. He's like, you should try it. And I had that board for 2 years, and I surfed it in anything, like 8 to 10 foot cliffs or 2 foot beaches, and that board worked. It was the best surfboard I ever rode, which is so weird because I didn't buy it. He kind of gave it to me in a weird, like, hey, bro, good to see you thing. And it was the best surfboard I ever had, for sure.
The best shaper of all time.
Oh, that's so partial, right? Like, I mean, for me, I love Skip, and I just think what he does is so unique and different. So that would be my vote. But yeah, I mean, there's so many of them out there. Takayama was insane. Al Merrick is incredible. Rusty in town. Like, there's so many of them. I hold them all in such high regard because they all do different things. But yeah, for me personally, yeah, it's Skip Frye. But all time, man, it could be a Bob Simmons. It could be a Velzy. I don't know. That's a tough one. You'd have to ask everybody. There's a million of them, but yeah.
Cool. The most promising shaper or a young shaper that shapes board today that you think it should be regarded in everybody's collection?
A younger shaper. So probably like Ryan Birch, someone like him. He makes incredible surfboards and he surfs so good. And I kind of like those guys that surf as good as they shape, like that. There's a lot of really good surfer shapers, but I think Ryan Birch is really special. I think I always look at it too as like the next step. Let's say when the Skip Frye type people are not here anymore and you want to get surfboards of that vein or somebody who could shape everything, you kind of look ahead to who's going to be here in 20 years. And I think Ryan Birch would be one of those guys.
Your favorite surf spot?
Restaurants in Fiji. That's my favorite wave on the planet. It's the best. I worked there as a boatman for a few years, and to go back every now and again, that's still one of the best waves on the planet.
Amazing. The best surfer of all time or your favorite?
Yeah, Tom Curran. It would be for sure, I think, my all-time favorite. Him and Aki were right there for me growing up, like as far as the two guys. Being a goofy foot, I loved Aki. And then just Tom Curran being an American, like watching him surf, his style is flawless. So I guess for me, it's always going to be Tom Curran.
Great. And the last question has nothing to do with surf, but we ask to everybody. So we want to know your best relationship advice.
Oh man, the best relationship advice?
Yes.
Get a really good dog. That's the best friendship you'll ever have. Like a good dog is just loves you no matter what, and you don't mind doing things for it. I swear to God, I can't give any advice regarding marriage because I'm not good at it apparently. But I would do a dog thing.
Okay, that works. That works. Fantastic. Thanks a lot for being on the show with us today. And I look forward to talk to you very soon. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope you had fun. I had a really good time.
Yeah, super good time, man. Thank you very much.
Cool. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!